But what should the Buffalo Bills do during the trade deadline? Is Brandon Beane going to make a move? Now, something that really bothers me is some people are a part of the camp of the Buffalo Bills don't do anything during the trade deadline, or Brandon Beane doesn't make a move to help this team out at any given season. First off, I think that is just a silly thing to say. There are countless examples of Brandon Beane going out and bringing in additional help for this Buffalo Bills squad, right? Last year, we brought in Amari Cooper. I know that it didn't work out. Hindsight is 2020, of course. But if you were to look at the sentiments from fans, everyone was freaking out, being like, hell yeah, Beane, I always knew you had it in you. No one can predict injuries. He got injured, but his presence was still enough for this offense to take that next step. The year before, we ended up bringing in Rasul Douglas. That was when we saw Tre'Davious White go down with an injury. Everyone was like, hell yeah, we have Rasul Douglas. That fixed our CB2 position. We've seen Brandon Beane hit a home run in the offseason, or at least a foreseeable home run with Von Miller. Guys, look, no one thought that Von Miller was going to tear his ACL 6 games into his contract. Nobody did. That was a home run move, right? Trading for Stephon Diggs. Nobody would have thought, all right, that like he would have became an issue in the locker room 3 to 4 years down the road. So Beane is active during the trade deadline. He is active. He is always wanting to add to this roster and improve it. I think that he is going to. But based off of what I heard a couple of days ago, and this is exclusively from what I'm hearing, a lock and change. The trade deadline is not until November 4th. I heard this, that the Bills are reportedly not active in the trade market with the exception of Chris Olave. And by active in the trade, it does not mean that the Saints are interested in moving them. By active, I meant that they have called and they have inquired about the wide receiver. As many of you guys know, per Diana Rossini, sounds like the Saints are interested in finding a long-term contract extension for Chris Olave. That was prior to their game against the Chicago Bears yesterday. But from what I understand, from what I have heard from my source, is that Buffalo, for the most part, has been crickets as far as going out and showing that they're interested in bringing in help to this organization, all but with the exception of Chris Olave. Now, lock and change. If Buffalo goes out there and we start seeing a lot of issues on the defensive line, or if we see a lot of issues in the secondary, we suffer another injury, then maybe this front office gets a fire under their booty and they start making some additional calls. But I don't think it's time for us to freak. Again, this trade deadline is not until November 4th. And I figured we should go through a couple of players I think that should be brought in to help this team. And I hate to tell you here, guys, there's really not a lot of names that I think are going to significantly improve this team, at least players that I think are realistically available. The best option is the guy that you're looking at, and this is Chris Olave. Will the New Orleans Saints, will they say, never mind about the long-term extension? We were all getting excited about how Spencer Rattler was playing for the first couple of weeks of the season. Maybe the straw that breaks the camel's back was his performance against the Chicago Bears last night. Maybe they look at that and they say, you know what? Maybe we can go on ahead and just shell off Chris Olave and we can get some additional picks next year for Kellen Moore to really work with something. I genuinely believe that this is the guy that would be the best for the Buffalo Bills offense. And looking into it, guys, like one of the biggest things we have from the Buffalo Bills, like one of the biggest complaints that we have is wide receiver separation. I was able to pull the statistics of all of the separation from Buffalo Bills wide receivers all season long. And then I also pulled the separation from players that I believe or that Bills Mafia has been really discussing on social media. As you can see, we have Shakir with 3.8 yards in separation. He's a slot. That's common with slot receivers. You typically see them have a hell of a lot more separation. It's based how defenses play slot receivers. You have Keon Coleman at 2.7, Josh Palmer at 2.2. Who knows when he's coming back? And Dalton Kincaid at 3.4. Similar situation with slot receivers, with tight ends typically have more separation due to how defenses play them. So here are the separation metrics from the names that I see from fans of like what wide receiver they think that could be brought in that is going to completely elevate our team. And as you can see, not much of a difference between a lot of them, right? Maybe 0.2, 0.3 yards. Maybe that solves it. I don't know. It's only 6 games so far this season, but it's something to consider. You have Jaylen Waddle at 2.9 yards. You have Jakobi Meyers at 2.9. A.J. Brown at 1.9. Chris Olave, 3.2. And Rashid Shaheed at 2.8 yards. Now, if you remember, we were able to look at a couple of these players and we were able to identify, could Buffalo afford these guys? Could they afford them? And the players that we could afford is Chris Olave, who on the coincidental side has the best separation out of all the names that we are looking for. That, I believe, would be at around $680,000 right now for a cap hit. And then next year, I want to say, is his club option. So we would need to owe him, I think it was like 12 or 13 million in a salary. That could very well be done. We could go out with Chris Olave and we could extend him next offseason and limit all of the cap implications immediately. It would not cost us very much at all this year. Same thing with Jaylen Waddle. This is probably one of my favorite targets for the Buffalo Bills. But will Miami end up shelling him off to a divisional rival? It depends, right? Like, where does this Miami Dolphins team really see their future going? How Mike McDaniel still has a job this morning, right now, as we are speaking, is a massive surprise to me. Will Chris Grier still be the GM over here? If Miami thinks that their rebuild is going to be longer than 3 years, I think that they would entertain a divisional trade with the Buffalo Bills. It's going to cost some money. It would probably cost a first-round pick. It would probably cost a second the following year. But at this point, why are we guarding a first-round pick so much? Because last time I checked, last first-round pick we've had that has really paid dividends has been Josh Allen, and that was in 2018. And that's no fault of Brandon Beane. And because I regularly hear people say, oh, no, it's Beane. He just can't hit in the first round. Guys, I hate to tell you, but after the first 15 picks of an NFL draft in the first round, it's a crapshoot. It is a glorified second-round pick. There are never 32 first-round grades in the NFL first round almost ever. And the Buffalo Bills are just a team that is luckily to be semi-consistent, and we never have a better draft pick than 26 or 27. So at my point, or my perspective, I'm saying screw those picks. Go out and potentially get Jaylen Waddle onto this team. Followed by Myers. He would also be affordable, but again, guys, he runs a 4.6 as far as a 40-yard dash. So if you're looking for speed, he's not going to be giving that to you. In fact, I think a Jakobi Meyers makes a lot more sense to the New York Giants. Who knows if the New York Giants are even buyers at this point based off of that collapse. You have A.J. Brown as well, 1.9 yards of separation. He finally had a pretty solid game last week. I'm not sure if Philadelphia is still interested in moving on from the wide receiver. We had Olave and Shaheed as well, who is just going to be another RB2 for this squad. So who knows where Buffalo's head is at? I would very much like us to target a wide receiver. Like with Chris Olave would be a dream. Would absolutely be a dream. So if the Saints are serious right now, and you know what? For all we know, this Saints team is just throwing out that we're strongly considering an extension for Chris Olave as a smokescreen to elevate his asking price. That's always on the table. I don't know. But out of every single wide receiver that we're looking at the trade deadline, of a specific player that not only do I think takes our offense to the next level, it opens up everybody else, we can afford it. I feel like Chris Olave and or Jaylen Waddle are the only two that I would really be interested in. Some people are talking about Garrett Wilson. Perhaps that would make a little bit of sense. But, I mean, really, at the end of the day, what can you do, right? Front seven could be interesting as well. Say, for example, we wanted to go out and grab another linebacker. Because, quite frankly, folks, when we look at our linebacking core, best linebacker we've had all season is Shaq Thompson, 32 years old. He's been the best linebacker we've had. We've had Bernard struggling. We've had Matt Milano unable to stay on the field healthy. I know, surprise, surprise. So are we going after a linebacker, right? Are we going after a safety? Maybe we go out and we sign Justin Simmons, the free agent. Maybe we go out and get so that 149er safety, right? Who's found his way below the depth chart. Like maybe we end up going out and signing Asante Samuel Jr., although that he has been very injured, right? And like has a very scary injury apparently, because that's the only reason that I could explain how he hasn't been signed yet. But my thought is this. I genuinely believe that this defense is more than just a player away. I really think that that's the case. All we can do is hope that these players coming off of injury, coming off of suspension, can fix it. And even if all of them came back, I still think we're not a player away. From the offensive side of the football, I believe we are a player away. I genuinely believe that all we are is one wide receiver that can open up everything that defensive coordinators have to plan against, which completely opens up our playbook. So when people are like, oh, no, Dan, we need defense, I'd agree with you. But the fact that we only have $2 million, we could probably only afford to make one move at the trade deadline. Maybe sign a fringe free agent who's not going to be any type of star power. So if we're limited from a cap perspective, it's got to be a wide receiver. My 2 votes, Chris Olave / Jaylen Waddle, get it done. But more than likely, I'm sure we'll end up getting Jakobi Meyers. So those are the targets for the trade deadline. Sound off in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. With our limited cap space, who would you be targeting? That is the question. Folks, Sleeper Picks, bar none, the best player prop platform on the market today. I was a big winner this previous weekend. I was able to really lock in on some player prop parlays since I was not distracted about my favorite team, the Buffalo Bills. Thankfully, I signed up when they were utilizing their $20 promo. As soon as when you sign up for it, link is in description, you get that free $20. Say, for example, you put down a deposit, they're matching it all the way up to 100%, all the way up to $100. You do not want to miss out on this. We have 2 great games this evening. There are a lot of low-hanging fruit and player prop promos. Do not miss out on this wonderful opportunity. Shout out to Sleeper Picks for being a proud partner of the show.